So Chris, one of the questions I've always wanted to ask an architect is when you see a, you know, untouched piece of land, like where does your head go and how do you get into the process to design it? And really how long does that take before you start coming on site?
Yeah, good question. Every one of these projects that we've done together with Taylor Morrison starts with a land plan, and we work in collaboration with. At one point, it was Waldrop. Now it's RVI, and there's one guy from RVI, Ryan Binkowski, that is really good in my mind with the big picture of like planning out a 1,000-acre piece of property. So he typically will do the initial plan where the holes will get laid out with the residential, and then from there, he and I will work together to kind of refine that plan, to refine the pars, par threes, par fours, par fives, to get that variety that we want with the dogleg left, dogleg right, having 18, unique holes, but also 18 different holes. And so that's the beginning stage, and it's very conceptual. It's, a piece of paper that may have 1,000 acres on it at 400 scale, and it's just stick figures, and we're just trying to put the stick figures together to get a 18-hole loop or a 9-hole loop that returns back to the clubhouse, and then we start refining the details. That whole process initially probably takes a month or two to really refine to the point where we have a plan. It's also important that from Taylor Morrison's perspective that we have enough residential lots to make the deal work. And so not only are we trying to create a good golf course, but we're also trying to get the number of lots that need to be built to make these projects work. And then once we get the land plan, like the physical location of the routing of the golf course, from there we're starting to refine and put the details in. And we typically start with a lot of I do a lot of hatching to show like highs and lows and the character throughout the golf course. And once we were comfortable with that, then we put it into like a detailed grading plan that would show all the undulations, all the highs and the lows. On a golf course like this, drainage is really important. We get a lot of rain here in the summer, so we want to make sure that the golf course drains well, and that after it does rain, that people are able to come back out here and play golf right away.
So we're going to have approximately 1,300 homes total for Esplanade at St. Mary's. And how many approximately are going to have golf views or golf lots, if you will?
I'd say probably over a third, but probably less than half. So there's homes out here that don't, like, for example, to our right here, there's a row of homes that overlook 8, but then there's houses on the back side of the other side of the road that don't look onto the golf course. So I'd say it's probably at least a third to less than a half that sit on the golf course that have views. And then we have little peekaboo view corridors. So as you drive through the community and the roads, there's areas where like 16 green, 18 fairway, like where you'll be able to look into the golf hole as you drive through. So the people that don't live directly on the hole can still feel like they're part of the community or part of the golf course by seeing that.
And it's always cool when you talk about width and giving the golfer space to hit their tee shots. And also there's width in between the homes and the golf course. So both the golfer and the homeowner have room to breathe and enjoy their separate spaces, which is always kind of cool to me.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, having the space like to play golf, but also the space for people so that they're not getting constantly, bombarded by golf balls in their backyards. And that part is really critical because the home values will decrease if they get hit on a regular basis, and we want to try to avoid that as much as we can.
So in the beginning, we'll have people and prospects and people who may be interested in the golf course coming out and open to the preview rounds. But long term, this is designed to be a member-owned and operated club and community. So within the HOA, they'll have golf, resort, amenities from food and beverage, spa, fitness, all the tennis and pickleball and bocce. But when you think about designing a golf course for a member long term and making it fun and unique to play multiple times, potentially a week or a month, what do you think about that, and how do you approach it?
I think that having the multiple tees, so that I think it's actually pretty fun to go out and play a golf course and not play the same tee. Maybe move forward or go to the entire forward tee to play the golf course. So I think that changes the golf course. Wind is a huge factor out here. We're not very far from the Atlantic Ocean. It's typically windy out here, and the wind does change direction. Sometimes it'll be out of the east, sometimes it'll be off the ocean. So the wind is always going to be a factor in the golf holes. Like, for example, if this hole, if the wind is out of the west, it's going to play short. But if the wind is off the ocean, it's going to play longer. So the holes are always going to be changing on a day-to-day basis because of that. The other part I think that's really important with a community golf course like this and a membership is that the practice facilities are really strong. We have a great driving range. We have a great short game complex, putting green. And so there's ability for golfers to practice and really hone their skills within this community. And it's all right here. Nobody has to leave the gates. It's all right here where people can come out and play. And then the last thing that I would say that is really interesting too about this golf course is the forward tees are in the fairways, the 3,500 yard tees. And you literally could play this as a par 3 golf course if you wanted to, as an alternative option. Like, okay, one day we're just going to have a par 3 tournament. We're going to set up every hole as a par 3. And so I think that's really unique and interesting in that regard.
So Chris, I know you're a golfer, and obviously we don't play as much as we all want, but I'd like to ask, how does that play into your design and the way you look at designing golf courses?
Yeah, I am a golfer. I'm an average golfer. My handicap is I think right now my index is 12.3, so I'm not a great golfer, but I understand the game. I've had moments where I've had great rounds or holes, I guess, but it's up and down like all golfers are. Sometimes it's all clicking and it goes really well, and sometimes it doesn't. The one thing that I've never tried to, the one thing I've made sure that I don't do is design the hole for my golf game. I'm a lefty, so my tendencies or misses are typically opposite of what a right-handed golfer would be. But I typically don't think about the design of the hole with regard to my game. It's really about variety and having 18 unique experiences. But being a golfer, I understand, because again, my point that I made a second ago is that there's been some days where I've struggled to break 100, and then there's some days that I'm flirting with 80. And so I understand the frustrations or the challenges of a golfer. And that goes back to the width part. If we can have the right width and we can hit the ball, find it, and play again. The bunker depths are important to that. The green slopes are really important. The recovery around the greens, and so I'm around golf a lot. I've been playing golf my whole life. I also do a lot of renovations of existing golf courses, so I'm watching golfers. That's the one downside of being out here is there's no golfers. It's just all construction workers. But I do a lot of renovation work, and I'm constantly watching golfers and watching abilities, and I see that people are really struggling, and so I probably tend to design my golf courses where they're more in the favor of the average golfer, making it more playable, making it more fun. And like I said before, we can make a golf course really hard by growing the rough up, speeding up the greens, fluffing up the sand, whatever it is. But I think I always have a soft spot for the average golfer, because I play at that level at times, and we want people to have fun. We want people to come back. The business of golf is dependent upon that. The business of you guys selling houses is dependent upon that. And so I feel like if we were to design golf courses that were extremely hard, it wouldn't be as fun, and nor would we have the success that we have.
So a lot of time the greens complex play a lot into how the golf course will play that day or that week. And so can you talk about the greens and how big they are and what kind of features they'll have?
Yeah, the greens on average are probably 6,000 square feet, and that's an average. There's a couple that are smaller than that. Like number 5 is probably barely pushing 5,000 square feet. Number 6 right over here, which is a par 3 Redan, meaning that the left side of the green is really tilted up and all the slope of the green goes from left to right. That green is probably 9,000 square feet, so a lot bigger. So again, variety of sizes. But then also the undulations in the green are really critical. We strive to have 3 or 4 kind of flattish areas within the green that are in the 1 to 2% slope range, where we can put a cup, where people can putt, where there's not a lot of slope. But between those areas, between the 3 or 4 flattish areas, we're going to have something that separates that area. So there's a premium strategically on being in the right location on the green, or if you miss the green, being in the right spot to recover back to that pin. And I think that's what makes greens interesting, is having variety. I'm not a big fan of just dead flat greens that are really fast. I'd rather have a green that has some undulation, that is maybe just a tad slower than what the demands are in today's world. I was just for example, I was just in Ireland for about a week playing golf, and the greens over there are really neat because they have a lot of slope, but they don't maintain them at the same speed that we maintain golf courses here in the United States. And so it makes it interesting to me. As an architect, I want to have fun, exciting things in the greens. And if the pressure is to have a super fast green, it's hard to create all those features within a green.
So you mentioned practice facility and how that is laid out around it's called the Pro Shop Exchange, where we'll have a restaurant and full service bar. Next to, we'll have a culinary center and a wellness center with all the fitness and spa, full service spa. So how does the practice area lay out inside the arrival and sort of the golf experience?
probably the best word that I can describe, and it's what we like at Esplanade Azario. We kind of wanted it to be like this portal type of thing. Like when you pull into the parking lot, you see the exchange building or the pro shop, but you're not really sure what's behind it. And we've kind of masked it with landscaping, and then it's like this portal. Like when you leave this concrete, area static, and you walk into the golf course, and it's this beautiful oasis. And then when you walk into this golf course here from the parking lot, you're going to instantly see the practice facilities. You're going to see the range, all within walking distance. I also want the range and the practice facilities to be used by people that aren't just coming here to play golf, that people just want to come up here and have fun. We're planning about a 16,000 square foot putting green that'll be right next to the exchange building. That'll be for everybody in the community to come up and practice and play games.
I see music, I see lights at night, events, so it's going to be a multi-purpose, so that's awesome.
Yeah, fun.
This will be our first bar and restaurant attached to the pro shop, which I'm really excited about. You know, it's like, where else can you have this much fun from, playing golf, checking in, getting a shirt, and then coming back and having a drink and kind of tallying your scores. So,
I agree. And that's been the trend. If you go to some of these golf facilities that have added these par 3 golf courses or these pitch and putt courses or these massive putting greens, that's what they have. Is they're anchored right next to the pro shop or the bar where people can get a drink, whether it's a water or a beer or whatever it would be. And I think that's part of the coolness of that whole concept is the social hub, is creating like this additional social hub within the golf course for people to hang out and just watch other golfers putt themselves, practice, whatever it would be, or just play games with their buddies.
Yeah, when you think about it, when all is built out here at St. Mary's, we're gonna have 3 hangout spots, from the exchange at the pro shop, the culinary center, which is kind of the main featured culinary with full service dining, and then a third, which would be the Bahama Bar by the resort pool. So it's gonna be a lot of options for fun at St. Mary's for sure. Do you want to talk about the range? It's like right now a canyon. And it looks like you could, have tours down there for all the country to come see. But talk about the range and what does it mean and how does it play into the whole design and the development of the course?
Yeah, so the range is an aqua range, which may seem odd that we're trying to hit balls into the water because we're always trying to avoid the water when we play. But the reason why we build this aqua range, or we have built this type of a range, is really for there's 2 purposes. One, for the water storage. So we need a lot of water to irrigate this golf course on a day-to-day basis. So that's where the water will be stored. Water will be pumped from the aqua range into the golf course or throughout the golf course. And then also we need that soil to build everything. So everything that you see out here in this golf course, when we started, there was nothing here. It was a dead flat palette. And so everything that you see, whether it's the lot pads, the golf course undulations, all been created from soil that's been built up. And where does that soil come from? It comes from all these lakes that have been built. Primarily that aqua range. It's massive. It's probably 30 acres in size, roughly. It's about 30 feet deep. They anticipate that it'll be about September before they're done digging it. If you look at it now, it looks like it's kind of getting close, but there's still a lot more soil to come out of there. And that aqua range, that lake, is also going to be a prime feature behind the culinary center, behind the Bahama Bar, within that whole amenity campus, and something that is going to be really striking to look out in and see this, pretty big body of water within this complex.
There will be targets.
Yes. Yep. Floating targets, the balls float, So, and it's really about just going out there, warming up, getting some rhythm prior to playing, and then going out and playing from that point.
Very cool. I noticed that the fairways have a lot more movement. You mentioned the dirt and the soil that you got from the range, but it does look like you've made a good use of it and just made it a bit more rolling in the fairways.
Yeah, we have, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is interest. Also, the other part is drainage, like making sure we have enough movement to drain water. So, this area, especially in the summer, gets a lot of rain, and when it rains, we want to make sure we get the water off the golf course into these catch basins, into the drain basins, and then so people can continue to play. But the undulation part to me is also what makes it interesting and makes it memorable to have this much undulation throughout the golf course. There's a couple holes like number 10 and 18 that have combined or holes that sit side by side with a big ridge that's probably 20 feet tall. 100 feet wide. This hole right here, 8 and 9, has this big ridge between the 2 of them. And so wherever we have 2 holes side by side, we tried to connect the holes, but also separate them either with landscaping or mounding or some type of landform.
I'd love to go walk and talk and just kind of show our viewers a little bit about what it takes to actually build the golf course, which a lot of us have never seen. There's only a few built every year, so this is like a once in a lifetime kind of thing.
Yeah, let's do it. Thanks,